You've spent your whole life being kind, always thinking of others, always ready to lend a hand. But at some point, you realize that your kindness has made you vulnerable, taken for granted, disrespected, and hurt. As we grow older, we're often taught to keep a warm heart, to be patient, and to forgive. But things are not always as beautiful as the theory suggests. There's a truth that few dare to speak out loud. If you don't learn to live a little more coldly, meaning with awareness, clear boundaries, and emotional distance, you may find yourself emotionally drained, easily manipulated, and caught in a constant state of exhaustion you can't quite explain. This coldness is not about being heartless or cruel. It's a form of emotional maturity, protecting your inner peace and preserving your self-respect. This video will share with you 6 important reasons why, after the age of 70, living with clarity, emotional balance, and well-defined boundaries becomes not just helpful, but essential. These lessons are drawn from the real-life experiences of many older adults, people who spent years being too kind, agreeable, and afraid of upsetting others, only to realize that their kindness often came at the cost of their well-being. This is not advice meant to make you cold or closed off. Instead, it's here to help you understand a vital truth. Kindness needs principles, and emotional connection requires boundaries. When you learn to love yourself right, you'll no longer need to sacrifice your peace just to maintain harmony with those who may not truly value you. Reason 1. Learning to say no is an act of self-protection, not selfishness. After the age of 70, true strength no longer lies in physical endurance or how steady your steps are. It lies in the resilience of your spirit. One of the clearest signs of that strength is the ability to set and maintain personal boundaries, something many people go without ever learning. Take Mrs. Margaret, 78 years old, for example. She was a woman who always lived for others. She cared for her husband and children with unwavering dedication, helped neighbors without hesitation, and said yes to every request, even when it meant sacrificing her rest or delaying her plans. For most of her life, she believed being kind meant never turning anyone down. But over time, she came to a hard truth. The more agreeable she was, the more people began to take her kindness for granted. There were no thank yous, no consideration for her time or well-being, only increasing demands as if her generosity was expected, not appreciated. That was when she realized that saying no isn't about being cold or distant. It's about honoring your limits and protecting your energy. It's about saying, my time and well-being matter too. And that, at any age, is not selfish. It's wise. Everything changed when Margaret started learning to say no. At first, it came with hesitation, even guilt. But then came something unexpected, a deep sense of relief. The people who had once taken advantage of her slowly drifted away from her life. And rather than feeling sad, she felt liberated. Personal boundaries aren't walls to shut people out. They're locked doors. And you are the one holding the key. You can choose who enters your life and how far they're allowed in. When you say no to things that drain your energy or compromise your values, it isn't harshness. It's a way of telling the world, I deserve to be respected. And that, at any age, is a powerful act of self-worth and emotional maturity. Reason 2. Protecting your time is a powerful way to show respect for yourself. Once you reach your 70s, time is no longer something to be spent casually, the way it might have been in your younger years. Each passing moment becomes more precious, not because you're running out of time, but because you've learned its true value. At this stage in life, how you spend your time isn't just a routine. It reflects how much you value yourself. Mr. Richard, 76 years old, used to say yes to everything. His calendar was always full of community meetings, family events, and old friends' invitations. There was barely a day without some engagement or commitment. At first, he thought this busy schedule kept him active and involved. But one day, he realized something had shifted. He was tired, not just physically, but emotionally. He had been present everywhere, but felt deeply disconnected inside. The parties felt repetitive. The conversations felt shallow. The long phone calls left him more drained than fulfilled. And it dawned on him. What he was missing wasn't activity. It was meaning. He had filled his time with noise, but not nourishment. That realization changed everything. Richard began to choose more carefully. He no longer accepted every invitation out of habit or obligation. He started to prioritize the moments that truly brought him joy, peace, or connection. His schedule became quieter, but his inner life became richer. The truth is, you don't owe your time to everyone and everything. You don't need to answer every call, respond to every message, or attend every gathering. The people who truly respect and love you will understand that your time is valuable, and they'll never make you feel guilty for protecting it. Because honoring your time is, in the end, honoring yourself. From that point on, Mr. Richard began to change. He no longer said yes out of habit. Instead of rushing to accept every invitation, he chose more intentionally. Who made him feel genuinely seen and appreciated? Which gatherings truly mattered, and when it was more meaningful to spend time with himself? His schedule became quieter, but each conversation, every walk in the park, and the quiet hours with a good book became far richer and more fulfilling. The truth is this: you don't owe your time to everyone. You don't have to answer every phone call immediately. You don't need to reply to every message immediately. And not every invitation requires a yes. The people who genuinely care about you will understand, and they will never guilt you for spending time on what truly matters to your well-being. Learning to prioritize your time for what is truly worthy is a powerful way of telling the world, I know I have value, and so does my time. Reason 3. Emotional detachment is a powerful way to protect your inner peace. The older we get, the more we begin to understand that inner peace is one of the most valuable assets we can possess. After decades of navigating life's highs and lows, we realize that we need not win every argument nor be involved in every situation, but maintain a quiet, steady mind that isn't easily disturbed. To achieve that, we must learn the art of emotional detachment, the ability to care without being consumed, to listen without absorbing, and to love without losing ourselves. Mrs. Agnes, now 80, used to be deeply sensitive and constantly worried about others. Within her family, she played the role of the peacemaker, stepping in to resolve conflicts, soothing hurt feelings, and even taking responsibility for things she didn't do, all in the name of keeping the peace. For years, she carried the emotional weight of everyone around her. But that constant tension slowly wore her down. And one day, she paused and asked herself a question. Is it worth it? Turning everyone's pain into my burden? That question marked the beginning of a transformation. From that moment on, Mrs. Agnes began to let go. Not out of indifference, but out of wisdom. She still cared and loved, but she no longer allowed her peace of mind to be dictated by every word, action, or expectation from others. She realized that not every argument needs her input, and not every careless comment deserves a reaction. She chose to take a step back, not to escape, but to protect the precious days ahead from unnecessary emotional chaos. You can still be kind without carrying everyone's sorrow on your shoulders. You can listen without feeling responsible for fixing everything. You can be empathetic without allowing yourself to be hurt in the process. This isn't coldness, it's emotional maturity and self-respect. Choosing peace doesn't mean becoming numb. Choosing peace means knowing what's worth holding in your heart and what's better left to pass by. Reason 4. Learning to say no calmly is the key to preserving your life energy. By the time you reach your 70s, your time and energy are no longer resources you can afford to give away carelessly. They become sacred. At this stage of life, one of the most valuable skills isn't about doing more, but about knowing when to say no without guilt, without lengthy explanations, and without feeling the need to justify your choices. Mr. Thomas, now 77, was once the go-to person for everyone. Whether it was babysitting the grandkids, fixing things for neighbors, or attending every neighborhood meeting, he rarely turned anyone down. Initially, it made him feel useful, like he played an important role in his community and family. But over time, he began to feel something shift. Every time he said yes, he silently said no to himself, turning down rest, delaying doctor appointments, sacrificing quiet moments meant for reflection or joy. His calendar was full, but his spirit was slowly running dry. He was present for everyone, but increasingly absent from his own needs. That realization changed his perspective entirely. After a period of exhaustion leading to physical and emotional burnout, Mr. Thomas seriously reflected on how he had spent his time. And it was during that quiet reckoning he discovered something vital. Saying no isn't selfish. It's an act of self-love. These days, he no longer agrees to everything automatically. He still lends a hand when he can, but he no longer stretches himself thin to keep everyone happy. When he says no, it's with a calm, steady voice, kind but firm. And most importantly, he no longer apologizes for putting his well-being first. Remember this: every time you reluctantly say yes to something you don't want, you're saying no to something that matters, like your health, your peace, your much-needed rest, or simply the quiet moments that restore your energy. Life will continue, even if you're not at every gathering or meeting. The people who truly care about you will understand, and they'll respect the boundaries you set. And here's the beautiful truth: when you learn to say no at the right time, you open the door to say yes to the things that truly matter, like serenity, autonomy, and a mind free from unnecessary pressure. It's not about rejecting others. It's about finally accepting yourself. Reason 5. Letting go of expectations is the first step toward true inner peace. Peace of mind doesn't come from having everything go your way. It comes from accepting what's beyond your control. After age 70, one of the most valuable lessons you can learn is how to release expectations. Not because you've stopped caring, but because you've come to understand a deeper truth. The more you try to control, the more anxious you become. The higher your expectations, the more frequent your disappointments. Mr. George, now 82, used to worry constantly about his children and grandchildren. He planned things for them, gave advice regularly, and stepped in whenever he thought they were making poor decisions, all with good intentions. He believed he was helping, but instead of gratitude, he was often met with resistance or irritation. And over time, the emotional weight became too much. He felt frustrated, fatigued, and even lost sleep over problems he couldn't fix. That's when he realized loving someone doesn't mean managing their lives. It means trusting them to live it. One day, after a heated conversation with his youngest son, Mr. George paused and asked himself, "Am I helping? Or am I trying to control?" That moment of self-reflection changed everything. He realized that love doesn't mean control, but respect and trust. From then on, he began to shift his approach. He still cared deeply but stopped stepping in unless his advice was genuinely requested. He offered guidance only when it was welcomed. The rest of the time, he stepped back, trusting his loved ones to take ownership of their own lives. Letting go of expectations isn't giving up. It's an act of courage. It's the acknowledgement that you can't carry everything. And more importantly, you don't have to. When you stop allowing your emotional well-being to be determined by other people's actions or decisions, you feel lighter, freer, and closer than ever to true inner peace. Sometimes, real love isn't about doing things for others, but letting them do it for themselves. And when you take that step back, you not only give them space to grow, you give yourself the peace you've long deserved. Reason 6. Selective empathy, a powerful shield for your mental well-being. Empathy is a beautiful and noble trait. It allows us to connect, understand, and offer support to those around us. But when empathy lacks boundaries, it can quietly become a double-edged sword. When you allow others' emotions to penetrate too deeply, the emotional weight can slowly erode your peace of mind and mental health, often without you even noticing. Mrs. Lillian, 79 years old, was once the person everyone turned to during distress. Old friends, neighbors, even younger family members. Whenever someone needed to talk, she was there. She would listen patiently, offer comfort, and set aside her needs to be present for others. She believed that true kindness meant giving without limits. But after years of absorbing everyone else's burdens, large and small, she began to feel the consequences. Sleepless nights became more frequent. Anxiety crept in for no clear reason. Her energy declined, and her health slowly followed. It wasn't until she visited her doctor that she heard words that changed her perspective. "You can care, but you don't have to collapse." During a routine checkup, the doctor gently advised Mrs. Lillian to rest, not just physically, but emotionally as well. He said softly, "You can continue to be kind, but you don't have to carry the whole world in your heart." That simple sentence struck a chord deep within her. From that day on, she began to practice selective empathy. She still listened to others, but she stopped allowing herself to be consumed by negativity. She learned to set emotional boundaries, saying no to conversations that left her feeling heavy, and distancing herself from relationships that only used her as a dumping ground, never considering her emotional state. She remained open-hearted, but only to those who truly appreciated and respected that openness. As a result, she began to feel lighter. Her mind became clearer, her spirit more peaceful, and her once restless sleep became deep and restorative. Empathy doesn't mean carrying all of someone else's pain. It's the ability to care deeply while still protecting your emotional stability. You can love without depleting yourself. You can care without sacrificing your inner peace. Because taking care of your mental and emotional well-being is not selfish, but your responsibility. Only with a healthy soul can you continue to share kindness in a lasting and sustainable way. Living coldly after 70 doesn't mean closing your heart, knowing who to open it to and how far. It's not selfishness. It's choosing to protect your inner peace. It's not emotional detachment. The wisdom from a fully lived life where you realize that not everyone deserves your time, energy, or emotional investment. You no longer need to prove yourself to anyone at this stage. You don't have to please everyone, be everywhere, or meet every expectation. You've walked through years of joy, pain, loss, and resilience. And because of that, you've earned the right to choose a gentler, deeper, and more free life. To choose who you spend time with, what truly deserves your attention, and which emotions are worth holding on to, or letting go. It's time to live at your rhythm. No more rushing or forcing. Let yourself rest when you're tired. Say no when you mean it. Stay silent when no explanation is needed. And smile at the little things that bring you peace. If these words have touched your heart, leave a comment. I'm ready to live more peacefully. Let it be a quiet but meaningful promise to yourself. And if you believe someone else needs to hear this, please share the video. Sometimes, a simple message shared at the right moment becomes the light that helps someone else find their way back to peace. in the most precious years of life.